Hi guys, welcome to the Kung Fu Mama Show! So today we have a very special guest who is a world traveler. We're so glad that she's here with us today. She's been in Taiwan for 4 years, but has lived in Guangdong, Singapore, Germany, and now back in Taiwan. And she is a MBA graduate from the London Business School, and she has 2 little boys, 3 years old and 1 year old. And inspired by watching them grow and develop, she started to learn about the Montessori system, the Montessori philosophy, and it inspired her to start a program called Petite Blumen.
Yeah,
I hope I said that right. And our guest here, Monica Liu Uhlmann.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. How are you today?
Good, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to talk about this because I'm so interested in early childhood development, and I think it's so important that kids start learning, even when they're in the womb. And it's just something that I've always been very interested in. Of course, as a parent, you're super worried about it all the time. And so hopefully that we're hoping that you can shed some light on, what's inspired you to bring this program about, and what are things that parents can learn and not be so stressed out about this learning process.
Yeah. So talk a bit about my experience here as a parent in Taiwan. I think Taiwan has a lot of parenting support. So I think we are really glad that we moved here due to my husband's job. So my older son, Fritz, he was born in 2018. And at that time, I didn't know about Montessori. I just want to bring him to classes and then to spend some time with him. So I found out that there is a so-called Montessori Parent-Child Center, 亲子空间. And then I realized actually the environment is really nice, and he started exploring by himself through the entire Parent-Child Center.
Right.
And then I got a lot of tips from the teachers, very calm, very gentle, like how to talk to the kids, how to talk to him, what he's doing, and then what does he intend to do, and so on. And I found that very fascinating. And then I see him behave is probably the wrong word, like how he explore the entire environment. And then I start copying the entire environments at home. And I realized in the past, I probably would say, oh, this is really dangerous. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I start learning that, give him the space and a safety environment where he can explore and to work with him together. And very generally, he becoming really calm. And then I don't say much about no, but instead of hey, let's do this together. And he become really curious and calm. And then I saw that it's fascinating, the entire thing. And we got a chance to go into the same daycare, and then we put Fritz in the daycare. And I met my partner, Karin, because her daughter is also in the same daycare. She's also an expat family. She's from France, but living also in Taiwan for 3 years now. So we just talk about that, the entire home Montessori. How do we do Montessori at home? And then I got the chance also to go through the AMS program for 0 to 3 and learn more about early childhood development. Montessori.
AMS meaning the American Montessori Society. Correct?
Yeah. So, and then I applied that to Fritz, and I found out I was pregnant with my second son, Henry. And then I applied the same philosophy in Henry since I was pregnant with him. And then it just became even more fascinating because the first experience with Fritz, a lot of worry, a lot of I don't understand what's going on. Then I realized what period that Henry is going through and how I use Montessori philosophy or education with him. And it become even more easier for the whole journey. So we decided, hey, there's a lot we can do with Montessori at home, because in Taiwan there is a lot of Montessori daycare, kindergarten.
Right.
But parents tend to think that Montessori is a very expensive exercise or expensive education. You have to have the money to put the kids to the well-known Montessori kindergarten or daycare. So we believe that it's actually not. Yes, you might need to invest in some toys or some work and some children-friendly furniture, but you can also just live very simple way to work with the kids from the Montessori perspective. So we cooperate with Ivy's House Montessori to launch Petite Blumen, and aiming helping more parents to know Montessori at home, particularly for the age between 0 to 6. So that's where the journey started.
That sounds amazing. So Ivy's House is they are also a sort of a preschool that
they have kindergartens, they have daycare, they have primary school now, elementary school. They also have a 亲子空间, the parent-child center.
Okay.
They have their like a kind of side product called Ikuchi Toys. They well designed from Montessori perspective. So it's really founded by Ivy and her husband. So it's really cool that like they bring the Montessori philosophy into the market. They've been in the market for a pretty long time already. Yeah.
So you can actually bring your child there like any time or any day of the week, or you have to enroll in their course?
For the 亲子空间 parent-child center, you can check out whether they have availability.
Okay.
But for the daycare and also kindergarten, you need to enroll. Yeah, it is typical. It's like a private kindergarten and private daycare.
Okay, awesome. That's great to know. So can you tell us a little bit about what are the basic principles behind the Montessori philosophy?
So Montessori philosophy had really a lot to know about, because it explained that the child goes through from 0 to 24 years. It includes so-called 4 plans: 0 to 6 years, 6 to 12 years, 12 to 18, and 18 to 24. So each of the plans have a sub-plans. So to talk about that, there is a lot. But I think from what my intake as a parent, that is important, like 2 points is like, first, respect the kids. Think about the kids as a human being. We talk about that we always respect the kids, but when it comes down to a lot of decision or work or live together with the kids, I think that the respect is different or interpreted differently. Second is following the child. Right. So to follow the child, you need a lot of observation, a lot of trust, and a lot of like calmness. Because if we're not calm, we are not. We have bias. It's really difficult to observe the kid, where are the kids is, or where is the kid's status is, and where is his development and so on. So I think that from that two perspective, key takeaway from my understanding of Montessori is following the child and respect the child.
Okay, so without having any bias and being able to observe their status and their development.
Yeah, a very quick example is like, for the kids, often with the small children, you see that he starts throwing food, throwing things. You think that he's having a hard time or he's challenging the parents' authority or something like that. But actually, that's the time that maybe he has a development that he wants to start throwing things. It's just a development. So instead of restricting him or her, saying that, no, you can't do that, we can invite him like, hey, let's throw the ball together. Here is the ball basket, just keep throwing. And then kids, they start doing that. So things like that, I think you just like need a lot of observation and a lot of non-biased observation. Yeah.
Do you find that this method, it's what it is that you have to condition yourself to allow them to do these things, but like your house ends up being like a complete mess? Do you find this?
Surprisingly not. I thought that at the beginning, I thought that, oh my God, like there is a lot of mess would happen in the household. But actually it's not, because Henry, the second son, is started with the Montessori from really early age. Right. And whenever, like for example, if he's sitting on the table and want to eat and he starts throwing, then I would tell him that if you really want to throw, that means that you're full. Then you're no longer wanted to eat. Then let's just get away.
Something else.
Yeah. Let's just stop eating, and then we just cleaning up, and then we start playing. So, and then it's actually becoming easier because I don't force him to eat anymore. Like a children lead eating, like the same for a lot of activity. I feel that like it's way easier. in the past with the Fritz at the very beginning, I might think, I need to bring him to this class and that class to spend a day together. So like calling to spending the time together, quality time together.
Right.
But actually, I found that we can do a lot of things at home, like cooking together, baking together, cleaning together. And actually, this little kids, toddler, even with the 0 to 3, they love it. They love doing household thing. They love cleaning the floor. Then we just start doing the thing together. I think a big part of Montessori, particularly for 0 to 3, it involves a lot of so-called practical life.
Right.
Practical life including like learning how to opening the bottle, learning how to sip the clothes, learn how to use a toilet, play with the water. It's actually, it's easier than I ever imagined. Yeah. So it's less messy at home as well. For Montessori, a lot of for Montessori, particularly at home, we apply using like a low furniture, like a lower shelf with a tray to put the toys where it belongs to. We don't have a lot of toys at home, 6 or 8. We display them in a tray. And then whenever he want to work, he just take the tray out and then work on that. And then we clean it, like we put it back together. And every few months or every few weeks, depends on his growth or development. If he doesn't play with the toys or the toy is a bit too challenge for him, and then I rotate to a new toy. And then it's just continue playing on that. So it's less mess than you can imagine. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a great idea. So putting a certain set of toys or whatever it is, whether it's a puzzle or it's a blocks or something, one tray. Yeah. Then you have the next toy on another tray.
Exactly. It just like use lower shell. It doesn't have to be a design Montessori shell. It could be just a table or a little shell here. You put the toys or on next to each other, 4 or 6, and then start playing on that. Of course, it have to be the toys that suit his development needs and also at his interests and so on. Like you figure out that sometimes he just passed the toys and he have no interest. That means either it's too difficult or too easy. Then I start changing to a new one and so on. Yeah, so which is quite interesting to learn and to know and to apply.
Yeah, and also getting to know your child more, I think. Yeah, I mean, that's also a great journey too.
It's quite interesting because with the Fritz, we didn't really apply that philosophy at the early time. So I found that I was quite exhausting of collecting toys or collecting a lot of things. But then once I learned about that and I start applying for that philosophy, and also I talk to my friends who's applying for that, it become very easier. And you can see that the child had a really clear interest of certain thing that he or she wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. Right. So tell us about Fritz and your youngest one and Henry. What is Fritz into right now, and what is Henry into right now? What are their favorite toys?
So Fritz is very interesting into language, so-called language Montessori, the language area, like which including animals, figures or pictures, books, puzzle. So he's really interested in language area.
Language.
He play a little bit with the so-called sensory, like a lot of like with the fingers, with the twist. But very often that you find out that he's wandering around in the language area, like whether it's animal figures or cars or construction, very typical boys. But then I try to expand that activity into more like language, how they call in Chinese, in German, and then what color it is, color matching and so on. And then quite a lot. And
so in the language portion that you mean, so you said that there's animals, there's cars, there's how does that translate to being in the language area? What does that mean?
Because from the age between 0 to 3, they learn language actually from how we repeat things. Like he doesn't learn A, B, C, D, but he learned how we speak. That, hey, this is 大象, this is elephant.
Right.
So this is how they start learning about the language. And then they will use like a picture and object. It's like the real picture of elephant. and then the animal figure of elephant, and then he started matching it. This is
Associate.
very, very early age on. And then becoming like, okay, color matching as well, or which animal living in which continent.
Oh.
Like then he started learning about the geography knowledge and also about the language, and which start talking to him. Of course, now he's moving to 3 to 6, and then he start having interest in like alphabet, and is with the sandpaper and so on. So that's the transition from so-called Montessori unconsciously absorbed to consciously decide what he wants.
Okay. Wait, can you explain that? Consciously absolve?
Unconsciously absorbed, because in Montessori, like between 0 to 3, it called absorbent mind.
Oh, absorbing. Okay.
Which means that like they just absorb everything in the environment. It's like a taking picture. It's a very good example. Like when we take a picture, you can't select what you're taking picture of. It just captured everywhere. So the same for the kids' brain between 0 to 3. They just capture everything.
Wow.
That's the reason we need to create order for the kids. So the same place for putting the toys, where the toys belong to, the same place you put the clothes, the routine of the day, like start eating and then go to potty and then go to school, the same routine. So the kids is easier to regulate themselves. And this is also how they absorb the orders. Often we see that the kids is so-called having the terrible 2, 0 to 2, because the sense of order for them sometimes got interrupted, but they can't express. So they have the tantrums. So that's very often that is start. And also between 0 to 2 to 3, the kids start learning, speaking about the language, talk about language. That is how we help them to express their feeling.
Right.
When they're angry, when they're upset, and we help them to express the feeling.
Right.
So that's how the language start kicking in. Yeah. So beyond 3 years old, according to Montessori, is that like conscious decisions.
Okay.
So they start become normalized. It's a very academic words now.
Right.
Become normalized that like they know what they want to play, and then they choose it.
Right.
So they start selecting what they want. So now Fritz is in that age of like conscious decision, and Henry's still like absorbing. Like
unconsciously. So unconsciously absorbing before you're 2 years old, up to 3 years old, and after 3 years old, you're consciously deciding on what you want to play or what you want to do. That's very interesting.
Because if in the kindergarten, Montessori kindergarten, they don't have a fixed program. Say now we start learning music, we start learning art.
Right.
They display the work according to so-called language area, music, art, mathematics, geography, and so on. The kids pick up whatever they want to learn, and then they concentrate because they're interested in that. So the teachers start observing and starting to challenge them. And then that's where they start expanding their knowledge. Below 3 is the same philosophy, but of course there's no mathematics, there is no so-called geography, not that deep, but a lot of practical life, a lot of music, a lot of art. So the kids, they start observing the environment. Hey, what are in the environment? So which is quite surprisingly that when you observe the kid in such environment, they really can focus and concentrate on the work. Very often we hear parents say like, my kids cannot play alone, by myself, by herself. But so far, what I have seen that is like, actually the kids in the daycare, even 1 year old, 1.5, they can just start working by themselves. Whether it's opening the bottle, whether it's just like putting the coins into the box, so on.
Right. Like
Con box,
my daughter loves to like organize things, so she'll throw everything out, then she'll put them all back in one by one. So it's really interesting because I feel like she can actually still like concentrate on one certain thing or focus on one certain thing. But I like how you said that you have to give them all of the choices between language, music, arts. You have all the choice there for them, and then they can decide which one
they want.
That's
so
amazing.
Like for our place, we don't have that much of so-called art area because it really depends on the parents as well. Because we don't want them to mess it around the place. So the art contribution become less because I have also a baby and a toddler at home.
Right.
So I have to see what kind of toys or activity I can present to them. Yeah. So to go back to that, like you asked me what Henry likes at this moment. He likes a lot of sensory, like opening the box, like real things like a telephone, remote control, metal box, and so on. So we have a tray or a box containing with the old iPhone, key, your easy car, and so on.
Sensory meaning like also including sensory meaning as in touch different materials, but also as in opening and closing things.
Yeah, could be. Because like opening is like how they start using the muscle, learning the muscle, or like this type of clip.
Clicking. Or
Clipping and closing. Could be just or just like the water bottle for them, like just to open. But this is a bit too difficult for Henry, but a bit bigger. So corn, making the corns into a hole. Like we call inserting the corn, or using the fluffy balls. I use a glass box, opening a little bit up, and then he just pushed the ball into the bottle. It's kind of difficult to explain, but for him, this activity is like using the index finger to push. Is really fascinating for him, or just like things like that. Yeah,
it's interesting because every little thing, every little action actually translates to so much more.
Exactly.
Like later in life when they push buttons or when they
because
put things inside something.
For them, they start learning is so-called whole hand grasping, and then to 3-finger grasping, and then 2-finger grasping. And then this is the development involved. Like they can't do that at the beginning. They have to do it like this, the whole hands, and then very soon they start with 3 hands, and then soon with 2 hands.
Okay.
And then they start using the powers of the index fingers, and then you can see that like it is interesting to see that how they evolve and what are their interests, and then you provide the so-called right material for them to start exploring.
Right. So that's really cool. So you have, you either use, when you begin to hold things, you use your whole 5 fingers to grab.
Yeah.
Then you move to 3 fingers to grab. Then you move to 2.
Not every kid is following the same, but that's generally how the kids like hands development.
Right. That's very interesting. Yeah, this is there's just so much here, so much scientific knowledge about this, but also so much observation. So it's really a big thing on the parents' part about having to realize.
Think back of Montessori, she is a doctor, pediatrician doctor, and she spent years observing the kids' development, and then to design such. I myself call it wonderful, like education, pedagogic.
Right.
And then you just start knowing, hey, actually the kids' evolvement is like this. From they are kind of looks like useless, and then to the time that like how they develop their so-called fine motor skills. You have the gross motor skills like climbing, walking and pushing things. Like they like walking steps, they like pushing things. It's like a gross motor. And then to this like a fine motor skills, like with the fingers, with the hands. So you don't need a lot to develop on that. Like I say, just bottle or peeling egg. This could be also like training their fingers and so on.
So for each stage of these development, is it something that you studied that you know exactly from like 0 to 6 months they're developing this, 6 to 1 year, or like do you actually tailor each little step and give them a certain activity for those times?
I think you really need to observe the kids. I mean, we have on Petite Blumen blog and also website, we post about on each of the stage, like 0 to 4 months, 5 to 8 months, and 8 to 12 months, if I remember correctly, that of each of the stage, what does kids really need in terms of toys, things,
Right.
and environment preparation.
Right.
And then, of course, there's a general age called cut-off time, but it really depends on the kids'
Right.
development. Some kids, they don't have such development. They already jump to the next. Or sometimes the kids are behind on that. So really need to see where are the kids standing at this moment, and then to provide the right environment and the tools for them to develop. Of course, it really depends on the parents as well.
Yeah.
If you don't care, if you don't think that it's important, this is fine as well.
Yeah.
Just depends on how you would like to raise your kids. I think it really deep down to parenting style, parenting choice. Yeah.
Definitely. I think that's a great place to end here. So basically, what's most important about what we learned today is to respect the child and follow the child, observe the child, and let them, actually develop on their own, but be equipped to give them the environment that they need to be able to develop those skills or develop those just simple motor skills or language and everything. Just to have a great environment for them.
Yes.
So thank you so much for joining us today. We really learned so much. And we'll see you again soon.
See you again soon.
Thank you.